Well, hey everybody, it's your good old pal EmptyHero, and today, thanks to a certain somebody stuffing the Patreon ballot box, we're gonna discuss the most depressing video game trilogy since Ubisoft attempted to capitalize on the unbridled success of their blockbuster hits Imagine Babies and Imagine Master Chef with the ill-fated crossover game Imagine John Podester's Mysterious Meatloaf Recipe. In this existential foray into the mind of a soy-guzzling new male who views every man in the world other than himself as a potential rapist, also known as the Lisa series, players will embark on two fairly well-made Earthbound clones, as well as a 30-minute-long Yume Nikki knockoff that hangs over the rest of the series like the whiskey breath of the uncle who got away with molesting you because, thanks to that horrific bowling accident when you tried to dry your nuts over the finger warmer and got 8-pound black balls shoved inside of you faster than Anderson Cooper on date night, the integrity of your beehole was never all that great to begin with. This trio of titty-trimming titles begins with Lisa the First, and fittingly, being the firstborn, it deals most directly with the franchise's odd obsession with repeated child molestation. Oh boy! Inspired by a thought-provoking combination of the childhood trauma endured by the developer's girlfriend, which the developer found to be highly hilarious, and the blatant plagiarization of a much more successful Japanese indie game, our quest to solve Lisa's riddle without getting diddled up the middle begins in the vomit-slathered room of our protagonist, Lisa, an underage thought who's apparently too damn juicy for her own good. In fact, the horrific regicides, collapses of society, and impromptu circumcisions of the series could have been completely avoided had Lisa simply gotten into feminism and swole up faster than the bedewed biosphere of blessed baby butter that is my balls during No Nut November. But were that the case, she would simply pretend to have been molested to garner likes on Facebook, and we'd be right back where we started. So I digress. The gameplay of Lisa the First consists of wandering dreamscapes in search of seemingly random items, like Daddy's secret banana and piping hot pearl necklaces, in hope that each exchanged bauble will bring you one step closer to escaping the tainted clutches of Lisa's father Marty, the molten hot mound of Mademoiselle Molested Man Molasses that refuses to let Lisa leave her room from a well-founded fear of her blabbing to the police about his tendency to play doctor with her despite losing his PhD years ago in a game of dominoes. Fortunately, Lisa's levels are reasonably sized, and lack the "what the fuck am I even supposed to be doing" labyrinthian quality that made Yummy Nippy such a pain in the ass to play. The challenge of escaping the hordes of Marty-headed spiders and visual metaphors like Tricky Ricky the icky sticky dicky who wants a licky, but winds up having a sensation-robbing bag placed over his sensitive head, like I sometimes do out of fear of leaving physical evidence, provides an interesting, if brief, backstory for the games that followed. Lisa the Painful, named after a shit the developer Dingaling took after consuming an entire box of fudgicles by squatting over it and snorting as hard as he could while pinching his nose, also known as No Homo the Game, begins with our protagonist Brad being beaten to a bloody pulp by some bigger kids as retribution for his friends performing a highly accurate impression of Andy Dick at an orphanage by grabbing their hairless balls, then having a whiskey bottle whipped at his head by his father, whom is furious that Brad was born as a boy, rather than as a second feminine mannequin for him to jam his penis in. A time skip then ensues, during which the eponymous Lisa offs herself off-screen, and for a never-explained reason, all the women of the world succumb to the much-discussed, but never-before-achieved request of Sots be gone. One can only assume that, being the retarded animals created by God as an ironic meme that they are, a comet made of unattended toilet paper rolls passed near the Earth, and they all clambered aboard to steal from it, but were too busy taking selfies with their ill-gotten skunch scrapers to disembark before it escaped Earth's gravitational field. Oh, how long I've pined for a comet composed of bagels that would yield similar results. Anyways, an older, wiser Brad finds an abandoned baby, the last known female on Earth, and instantly drops her on her head, ensuring that, one day, she'll be stupid enough to make the events of the sequel Lisa the Joyful possible. Realizing that he's not enough of a cuckold to raise another man's child on his own, Brad turns to his posse of red-nippled chronic masturbators for guidance. while they suggest trading the girl to a powerful warlord in exchange for a large reward and to guarantee her safety, as well as the final hope for perpetuating humanity, Brad does his best impression of me by forcing her to wear an eyes-wide-shut mask at all times while locked in a secret basement. Allegedly. What would happen if she were to remove that mask? Well, let's just say it would be extremely painful for her cunt. All it took was a single wisp of a quiff in the air to bring the horn dogs a-callin', and Brad returns from a long day of pill popping in an alley behind the Fuddruckers to find his Genji's Gambit gulper of gelatinous gonad gumbo is gone. What seems at first to be a simple rescue the princess before the bad guys can fart in her womb, thereby ensuring that all of her future children will be born Hispanic quest, gradually unravels, revealing the protagonist to not be all that the player might expect. Random lunatics force Brad to pick which of his teammates will recreate the best scene from the movie Deer Hunter, but without all those screaming gooks to spoil your erection. The bullies from the prologue return, determined to provide karmic irony in that you stole their ball in the past, so now they'll drain their balls into every orifice of your daughter's body in the present. And a certain ancillary antagonist with a throbbing knob for circular saws will force Brad into either sacrificing party members or cutting off Brad's arms and relegating the poor sap to scooting around on the ground like a dog with worms, a turtle with no hind legs, or Zoe Quinn for the rest of his life whenever his balls itch. However, not all of these confrontations have heroic choices, and the player is not always in control. The further Brad advances towards the end, the less sense his mission makes, and the more repulsive his behavior becomes. Literally everyone else in the world wants Buddy to stay with the warlords, including members of your own party and Buddy herself, as she probably wants to capitalize on her pungent punani power before she gets too old and hits the wall harder than a blind Mexican running north. Despite wanting to protect Buddy from men like his father, Brad winds up subjecting her to even worse trauma by bashing in her friends' faces in front of her just because they wanted to help her escape the subterranean dungeon she's been locked in her entire life, and he's afraid one of them might accidentally sniff her panties. And Brad doesn't just hurt his enemies, the balding fuck will literally reenact a holly jolly Heth truck of peace on motherfuckers just for existing in his past. Gameplay-wise, the painful encourages players to collect bottles like the homeless psychotic that Brad both looks and acts like, in order to fill them with water, poison, or explosives. Random encounters are mostly absent, and each fight feels uniquely challenging and interesting as a result. Perhaps the most inventive twist on the RPG formula are the existence of the Joy Mutants. These hapless victims of an endless no-nut November have taken the blue pill and overdosed on pure unfiltered joyland, becoming the sort of twisted abominations you wouldn't usually see outside of a Steven Universe fan character Tumblr page. These misshapen joy boys can inflict permanent death onto your party members with a single bite, much like a Komodo dragon or a British person. At times, the player will have to decide in advance which of the dozens of party members available they are willing to risk permanently losing. I didn't know this could happen at first, and lost my most precious of boys as a result. Rest in peace, Terry. You were too pure for this gay earth. But this is indicative of the intended experience of Lisa the Painful. Brad is a stupid fuck and loses everything because he's just that stupid. In Lisa the Joyful, players assume the role of a workplace hotshot whom is the perfect Tumblr-approved protagonist. Buddy is a one-eyed, one-breasted, father-hating feminist who free bleeds everywhere she goes because she's too goddamn stupid to use tumbleweeds as makeshift tampons, and becomes more and more woke as the game progresses until she becomes so bent on, yes, queen slaying the ruling male class and installing herself as Fempress of Olas, because, fuck Blumps, it was her turn, that she'll have no problem putting the fist in the pacifists, despite Justin Trudeau's warnings that if you kill your enemies, they win, then causing Big Lincoln's knot to rot as he yips in hell, and dropping the man who watched over her while she slept without giving in to the all-encompassing temptation to pump off on her face or use her luscious eyelashes to wipe the breadcrumbs from the rim of his beehole during the rapid eye movement phases of her sleep, just because he revealed to her that he wanted to keep her safe thereby denying her the ability to be a strong, independent, glorified pussy on a pedestal that don't need no man. Snippity snap snip. If the fact that literally everyone in the world wants to brutally rape and literally lick and caress Buddy's underage body during battles turns you off from playing this epilogue, keep in mind that they aren't actually beating up Buddy, just tenderizing her cooter to get the juices flowing. And if you add a normally valueless 0 to the end of Buddy's age of 10, you suddenly have a female protagonist who is 100 years old and 100% okay to lust over. Problem solved. And to be perfectly honest, is the implied repeated gang rape of each game over so bad, all the evidence presented during the game confirms that Buddy probably does need to get laid to chill the fuck out. And it's partially all her own fault due to not properly masking her dank front butt stank by constantly farting, which, oddly enough, is the exact opposite of how Serena Williams masks her pungent ball sweat aromas, by jamming raw fish guts up her shithole. Gameplay-wise, major improvements include Buddy's amazing ability to run like Michael Flatley holding in a massive shit, leap over gaps faster than the tartar on Michael Strahan's teeth, and the complete lack of permadeath mechanics that made Lisa the painful, well, so painful to play at times. "Are you in or out?" she asked Rando, momentarily possessed by the spirit of Lisa, thinking that she was talking to her dad. This awkward moment epitomizes the story arc of The Joyful, in that it concludes the trilogy with bittersweet moments and imperfect compromises. While Buddy can come to terms with her hatred of Brad, help Buzzo get over Lisa despite the fact that he keeps getting older but Lisa stays the same age, and settle affairs with her real father, the horny boy who squats on more mounds of meat than Britbog's mother while he watches anime in a onesie and pretends not to hear her through the wall between their rooms. There is nothing the player can do to cure Brad. Avoid murdering Rando or bring back Terry Hintz, who died for our sins and was resurrected on the third day, but now dwells on a plane beyond the comprehension of mere mortals such as you and I. Overall, the Lisa trilogy is very weird, but also unique. Never before have I been able to interrupt a tragic breakdown of my protagonist by having him dress up like a filthy slut at the last possible second, nor has the game made me look at gang rape in such a negative light. I would suggest these games to anyone with an interest in the strange and a high tolerance for manual man-on-mangina manipulation. Well, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, you can subscribe with notifications enabled, tune into one of my weekly streams, use the links provided in the description of this video to join my Discord, help me choose which game I review next by becoming a Patreon, check out one of my original ebooks, paperbacks, or audiobooks, or do your part to end child molestation by disfiguring a pretty girl today. Until then, my colliginous chunks of cantankerous candy, thanks for your time and goodbye!